Hey folks, Matt from artoftheimage.com. Got the Sony a7s Mark II, and actually it's time for it to go back to Sony. Seems like I just got it. The time has flown, mostly because it's been such a pleasure to shoot with. But I just wanted to give you my final wrap up, my final review. I've had it here for 10 days of shooting. We've got 3 shoots in. I took it to Louis Tussaud's Waxworks and got some great shots there. Some killer high ISO images there. Really showcased the a7s Mark II's high ISO abilities. If you haven't seen those yet, check them out in the past video. I'll put the link below where I did a tour through the Waxworks, and you can see all the different wax figures and all the high ISO images I got with the a7s Mark II. Then we shot in the Bird Kingdom at Niagara Falls. Louis Tussaud's was at Niagara Falls as well. And the Bird Kingdom probably would have benefited more from a longer lens. I've got the 24-70 Zeiss f4 on here, but still got some great shots at the Bird Kingdom. And it wasn't as challenging for lighting situations most of the time. The bat enclosure was great to have the high ISO abilities. Certainly we were able to get all the speed we needed for shutter speed to capture birds in flight and things out of the a7s Mark II without a problem. And then we took it to the museum here in Woodstock and just did some indoor shots throughout the museum, which, again, the lighting can be a little dimmer, and it was really good to have the high ISO abilities of the a7s Mark II. We also took some video of Penny the Bulldog, and you got to see some footage of her looking around trying to avoid the camera. She's gotten camera shy. If you haven't seen that one, check it out. If you haven't seen any of these, I'll put all the links below for them. Or you can just click on the playlist on the Art of the Image channel for the Sony a7s Mark II, and you'll see all the videos we've done. And then, yeah, basically just been playing with it a lot. Haven't had, I wanted to get a shoot with the girls, with my girls. Didn't get a chance, didn't have time. Time seems to have flown. And also wanted to play with it with an adapter with some manual focus lenses, which I didn't get a chance to do. So hopefully we can get it back, and get it back maybe with a long lens, and then also play with it with some manual focus. But it's still in pretty high demand, so we only had it for 10 days. For those of you that aren't as familiar with the Sony a7s Mark II, and you're wondering what the difference is between the Mark II and the original one, basically it's the same sensor with some refinements on the processor. It has an internal 4K video ability now. It brings 5-axis image stabilization, which is huge, and it also just has some refinements and some tweaks to the body and just the layout of things. Size-wise, the Sony a7s Mark II is a pretty small camera. I don't have the largest hands, and you could see that, you know, even with this 24-70 lens, which is a larger lens, it's small. It doesn't it's not really bigger than my hand. It's about 22 ounces, around I think 680 grams that works out to be. So it is small and light. It's certainly the smallest and lightest full frame camera I've ever shot with, and really a pleasure in that sense to be able to get such full frame goodness and such high ISO ability in such a small and light camera. Now, I haven't shot with the original A7, but the things that have changed is the shutter release has been moved, the shape of the front grip has changed and actually fits really nicely in the hand, no complaints there, and the command dials have got a little bit different positioning from the original A7. So all in all, just some refinements, and actually this does seem like quite a nicely refined camera. Sony's really getting refined and mature in their build of their camera bodies, and this is a beautiful camera. It's a joy to shoot with. I've really enjoyed it, and it's just works really well in the hand, and the layout and all the controls I have no complaints with. The electronic viewfinder on the Sony a7s is very sharp, it's very nice. It is now 0.78 magnification, up from 0.71 times magnification on the original Sony a7, and it's a really beautiful viewfinder to look through and to shoot with. Sony's done a great job there, and just continues my love of EVFs and my basically preferring an EVF to optical viewfinders these days. They just have so many advantages, and they've got so good that I'd rather have a viewfinder, an EVF like this one on the Sony a7s Mark II, than an optical one. The rear display, the LCD on the Sony a7S Mark II, I'll flip it up for you here. It flips up. You can see it flips up and up a little bit more than that horizontal. And then you can also flip it out and down. So if you're shooting up overhead, you can see it there. And it's 3-inch display on there. And it is 1.2 million dots. So good resolution. It's crisp and it's bright. I have no complaints with that. I enjoy the fact that it flips up. I do wish, as I wish on every camera, that it was a fully articulated swing out, swing around, LCD. Fully articulated would be nice. But if it's a choice between a flip up and a fixed, the Sony a7Ss, I'll take it any day of the week. It's just something I'd like to see Sony bring to their bodies, is a fully articulated LCD. But it is very nice, good resolution, clean, crisp, clear images. No complaints in that department with the Sony a7S Mark II. Overall, I really like the camera body on the a7S Mark II. It's comfortable in the hand. It fits my hands well. Ergonomically, everything's well laid out. I had no problems quickly getting accustomed to all the buttons and dials and how everything works. One little nitpick, I don't really like the lock on the mode dial up here. A lot of people would think that's a good feature. To me, it's just one more nitpicky thing that I have to worry about. It takes a little bit more time to get it unlocked, to change it, and I'm not somebody that's ever had a problem on any of my cameras with the mode dial slipping out of where I wanted it to be. You know, if it was in manual and knocking it into program mode or something, that just doesn't happen. So I think it's meant to be a feature. For me, it's something I kind of wish wasn't on there, but it's just a little nitpick, not a big thing. Overall, I really like the camera. I like the design. I like how it feels, and I like all the buttons and the layout. The fit and finish is excellent. This is a high quality camera, and it feels like one. The tactile resistance of the buttons is great. The rubber on the grip feels good in the hand and has a good feel to it below your fingertips, and really just like the fit and finish and the build quality of the a7S Mark II. Image-wise, the 12 megapixel sensor in here delivers amazing quality high ISO images. That's really where this camera shines. If you want something that's going to shoot in very dim light, almost pitch black situations, the a7S Mark II is your camera. It really, really delivers there. On paper, it looks similar to the original a7 sensor, but the a7S II has the new Bion's X image processor, and that's where it really shines and really delivers more from the sensor than the original A7 could get, and better low light abilities. Dynamic range is impressive. It delivers really good image quality, good dynamic range, good color depth. Colors are vibrant and they're crisp and they're nice. There's nothing not to like about the image quality from the Sony a7S Mark II. It's just really, really good. And the ability to shoot in the uncompressed 14-bit RAW is really nice too, because you can see the full quality there, and you get really nice, smooth tonal transitions in your images as well when you're shooting in the uncompressed 14-bit RAW. As I mentioned, this is really a low light camera. Its native is 100 to 102,400 ISO, which in itself is incredible. But when you flip it into the expanded mode, it's 50 to 409,600. Now, like any camera, you're not really looking at a usable image at its top ISO setting. In other words, the 409,600, I would never shoot at it. Maybe in an absolute pinch where I just needed it to get a certain image and I was using it maybe for documentary purpose and I was going to turn it to black and white. But essentially, I did shoot quite a few images at 102,000, and they were pretty decent. If you go back and look at the Louis Tussaud's Waxworks images, they are pretty clean. It's pretty impressive. That would probably not be my limit though if I was looking for really good clean images out of here. My limit is probably the 51,200, I think is what the settings is. 25,600 is quite clean, which is amazing. But 51,000, if you're shooting it properly with good technique, and then you're shooting in RAW so you can process it and you can work with some finesse if you need a little bit of extra noise cleaning up in, say, Lightroom, is certainly usable. So that would probably be my limit, somewhere between 25,006 if I needed it to be really clean but needed high ISO, 51,000 if I wasn't able to get it and I needed that extra boost. I wouldn't really be worried about using, but I might have to do a little bit of cleanup in Lightroom. 102,000, getting a little noisy, and certainly I wouldn't go above that except if I absolutely had to get a shot that I just had to get. Menus on the A7S Mark II are really well laid out. I didn't have a problem with them. I know some people complain about Sony menus. I think it's more a question of when you switch from camera system to camera system, they're not the same. This is not a Canon, it's not a Nikon, it's laid out differently. But I didn't find it hard to navigate. I think it's much more mature than some of the earlier NEX menus, and I didn't have any trouble. It's very straightforward of how to go through them and find what you're looking for. The buttons and how that all works is fine. The placement is good. They've got quite a few customizable buttons and they're in good positions. We have C1 and C2 right up here on the top deck. Everything's just really nice. It's well thought out, and you can really see the maturity of the Sony bodies in the A7S Mark II, and it's a great design. It's well thought out. I really don't have any complaints. I wish the LCD was a touchscreen. I guess that would be my one complaint. It would be really nice to have a touchscreen, especially for adjusting things and for picking focus points and for tap and shoot, because I love that on my Panasonics, and I really wish the Sony had that. I wish all cameras had that. That's just a nitpick, something hopefully Sony will bring to their cameras in a next iteration, but certainly not something that's a big negative on the camera, just something I really wish it had. My other little nitpick, which is actually more of a nitpick, I really don't like the placement of it, is the video record button right here on the side. As you can see, your thumb, your hand covers it up pretty much there, and I found it's too easy to either turn on video or turn it off by accident. It's just not a great spot. I don't know why they thought to put it right there. It would have been better just behind the shutter button or off to the side of the shutter button perhaps, where you have to actually purposely hit it instead of here where you can accidentally hit it, either turn it accidentally on or accidentally off, which I did do a couple of times, which you notice those things and you notice placement of that is not ideal. The A7S Mark II has a 1200 zone metering system, and I found the metering on the A7S Mark II to be great. As good as any other camera I've shot with. It worked very well, to the point where really a lot of times you can just shoot in program mode. Cameras are getting pretty darn good. And if your subject's not moving, and if things aren't as challenging that way, like walking through a museum or a waxworks, it's quite easy to shoot in program mode and then make alterations if a certain shot didn't work out the way you wanted it. But basically, yeah, the metering works good. I used spot metering quite a bit, and I used the multi-area metering quite a bit, what we would call matrix on the Nikons. And it was good. It was accurate. White balance was good. It was accurate. The colors were pleasing. I had no complaints there. It generally just did a really great job in all those areas. As I mentioned, the A7S Mark II has the 5-axis image stabilization, and I had no problems with that. Between this 24-70 Zeiss lens on here and the image stabilization, I was able to get very low shutter speeds. It's an f4, so the low shutter speeds were very handy in situations where I had static subjects, and it worked very well. It was a very nice addition, and as I said, I haven't shot the original A7, but I would not want to go back to it having shot the A7S Mark II with this very good 5-axis image stabilization that's built into the body. Battery life on the A7S Mark II is another nitpick of mine, though. It's nice that they've been able to standardize on the same battery throughout the whole lineup. These are the NP FW50s. They're small, and fortunately you can pick up like a pair of aftermarket ones like the Wasabi batteries. A pair is probably $25. I'll put a link below for those if you want to check them out. And you certainly want to do that. You want to have at least a couple spares because the battery life is fairly low. If you're just shooting photos, I think it's rated for about 370. I probably didn't get that much, 370 out of a battery. It was probably close. I think it depends again if you are using the LCD and switching back and forth from the EVF a lot. It's going to burn battery a little more than if you aren't, if you're just primarily on the EVF. And also if you're shooting video, you're going to find that it's going to just chew up your battery. So if you're doing a lot of video, you're going to want more than a pair of spare batteries. As I said, it's nice that they've kept the battery consistent throughout the lineup, so your batteries fit in all the Sonys. If you own multiple bodies, that's fantastic. If you're upgrading, you can hang on to your spares, and that's the good thing. But either they need to get the same battery with a bigger energy supply in it, if they want to tweak it technically so that it holds more juice and it lasts longer, that would be fantastic. Or I think they do need to look at switching to a bigger, more powerful battery if they can't tweak this one to give you a better battery reserves. That is a nitpick. It's not a big deal because you can get batteries cheaply, as I mentioned, but you're going to want to carry some spares. Keep that in mind. At least a couple. If you're doing video, you're probably going to want 4 or 5 spares, actually, depending on the amount of video you're shooting. Video, as we touched on, is really sweet with the a7s Mark II. It does 4K internally. It has clean HDMI output with 4K. It has mic and headphone inputs. It does 1080 at 120 frames per second. Lots of really nice features. If you're a video editor, it has flat cinema profiles. It also has a lot of these S-Log 3 profiles. So really powerful video tool. So if you're looking for a low light video camera, you really should consider the a7s Mark II. It's very nice for that. No need to be scared off, though, if you're not heavily into video. It's still very easy to just shoot video. From a less advanced, more amateur video person, you can set it into even program mode or set it to manual and start shooting. You don't have to worry about all those extra options and features that are there. You can just shoot more basic video and get some really high quality, very nice high ISO, low light video, 4K video out of the Sony a7s Mark II without really delving too deeply into those additional features that are there that you're going to want if you're more advanced into video and if you're a video editor. If you are going to be shooting a lot of video or any video on the a7s Mark II, you're going to want a Class 10 SDXC memory card, an SD card, and ideally you're going to want at least a U3 card. They're very fast. They're pretty inexpensive these days. I'll put a link below to the Transcend ones that I really like. You can get a 64 gig card for about $25, maybe $30. They work really well in the a7s Mark II. That's actually what I used while I was shooting it, and just delivers really good video. I didn't see any rolling shutter effect. That seems to be very well handled. I certainly didn't notice it anyways with a little bit of video that I did shoot with the a7s Mark II, but overall I was just really impressed with the video out of this camera. So to wrap it all up, I've really enjoyed shooting with the a7s Mark II. I really like this camera. Its low light abilities are the best I've shot with to date. Very, very good low light. Nothing I've seen has beat it yet. Still waiting to see what the Nikon D5 and D500 does, but this thing really, really delivers for low light, high ISO ability. And that's essentially what it is. If you're looking for a low light camera, you need to consider the a7s Mark II because it's probably the best on the market available right now. On the other hand, if you don't do a lot of low light, if you're not in a situation that demands a really, really extreme low light camera like the a7s Mark II, you're probably better served to consider the Sony a7 Mark II or the a7R Mark II, where they have a higher resolution sensor and still deliver quite good high ISO ability, just not staggeringly good like the a7s Mark II, which is a high ISO killer. The body's mature, it's well built, it's got excellent fit and finish. I just really like this camera. I'm sorry to have to send it back. The 4K video, awesome. If I had it in the stable here, I'd be using it probably as my daily shooter just so I could cut down on my lighting and things because you can shoot really high ISO, really clean on this thing. And it's just a pleasure to shoot with. It's a really nice camera. If you guys have any questions about the a7s Mark II, leave them in the comments below. I'll see if I can get them answered for you. If I don't know the answer, we'll see if we can get an answer from Sony for you. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon here at artoftheimage.com.